is one of the first questions that was given to me by someone within the congregation. A question that they obviously have pondered about and wanted to know about, and so I thought it was important that we deal with that. And I thought it was important that we deal with it first, because it really is a question that provides us with a foundation in terms of how we approach the other sermons that will come out through the rest of the summer. So we'll see where it takes us over the next few minutes. Reading from Genesis 1. God said, "Let the lands produce all kinds of living creatures. Let there be livestock and creatures that move along the ground and wild animals. Let there be all kinds of them." And that's exactly what happened. God made all kinds of animals. He made all kinds of livestock. He made all kinds of creatures that move along the ground. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our likeness. Let them rule over the fish in the waters and the birds of the air. Let them rule over the livestock and over the whole earth. Let them rule over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created man in his own likeness. He created him in the likeness of God. He created them as male and female. God blessed them. He said to them, "Have children and increase your numbers. Fill the earth and bring it under your control. Rule over the fish in the waters and the birds of the air. Rule over every living creature that moves on the ground." Then God said, "I am giving you every plant on the face of the whole earth that bears its own seeds. I'm giving you every tree that has fruit with seeds in it. All of them will be given to you for food. I'm giving you every green plant to all of the land animals and the birds of the air for food. I'm also giving the plants to all of the creatures that move on the ground. I'm giving them to every living thing that breathes." And that's exactly what happened. God saw everything he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, and it was day 6. And then reading from Paul's letter to Timothy, the second letter, chapter 3, reading 2 verses out of 16 and 17. God has breathed life into all of Scripture. It is useful for teaching us what is true. It is useful for correcting our mistakes. It is useful for making our lives whole again. It is useful for training us to do what is right. By using Scripture, a man of God can be completely prepared to do every good thing. So how should we, as Christians within the 21st century, approach the Bible? That really is the heart of today's sermon, based on the question, how literally do we take the story of Adam and Eve? As 21st century Christians, how should we read not just the story of creation, the story of Adam and Eve found in the first 2 chapters of the book of Genesis, but how should we read the Bible in general? How should we read the Bible intelligently? How should we read the Bible with understanding, with faithfulness, with appreciation? How should we read the Bible in the way the writers of the Bible intended it to be read centuries ago? Do we read it literally, as if every word within it is factually true? As if the stories recorded actually took place the way they are written down? Is it intelligent for us to do this? Is it faithful for us to do so? Is it honest to the way that the original authors intended their words to be read? Well, let's look at the story of Adam and Eve, the story of creation, as if it were a literal reading. Very simply, it's wrong. the story of creation as a literal record of life's beginnings is wrong. God did not create the world in 6 days. God did not create 2 people in the beginning to be the first of all humanity. God did not place them in a literal Garden of Eden and set a tree in the center of the garden and tell them not to eat of its fruit. We know it didn't happen in this literal way it is described in Genesis, because we know scientifically this is not how the world was formed. God did not create the world in the way that Genesis tells us. This was not how life came forth. This was not how we came to be. The evidence, the proof, the truth of science is simply too overwhelming for us as intelligent 21st century Christians to believe it didn't happen this way. Now, there are creationists, those who view the Bible very literally, who say it happened exactly as it is recorded. Some have even gone to a great deal of trouble to proclaim that the world was created no more than 6,000 years ago. That dinosaurs and humans coexisted. That there are no dinosaurs today because either they were too big to fit upon the ark, or because it was God's will that they not survive. That the fossil records of their existence have been misinterpreted by scientists. That mountains of verifiable, scientifically validated proof is wrong. While an ancient story written thousands of years ago by theologians and philosophers is right. Is that really how we as 21st century Christians should read the Bible, should view the story of Adam and Eve? Should we set aside all of this scientific knowledge, simply discount out of hand the things that we know, not what we guess to be true, not what we assume to be true, but what we know to be true about life and its beginnings, just so that we can then read the Bible literally? Now, I understand the fear that people feel who hold to a literal view of the Scriptures. If we say that the creation story is just that, a story, then that, they say, is the thin edge of the wedge. Then what is to prevent us from reading the rest of the Bible as if it were just a story? So in Noah's time, people didn't live to be 900 years old. There was no world-destroying flood. Although if you ask the people of Calvary, they might tend to agree with that story. Did hundreds of thousands of people leave Egypt and walk across the Red Sea on dry land? Was Jesus born to a virgin mother in a stable? Did wise men follow a star? Did he walk on water? Did he heal the sick? Did he rise from the dead? Was he the Son of God? If we don't read the Bible literally, every word of it literally, then what's to prevent us from discounting everything written within the Bible, calling it false or untrue or wrong? So we have to read it literally, people will say, or the whole house of cards will collapse. How sad. How sad that we would have such a limited view of this message of life, this testament of God's purpose, this true story. Because it is true. This Bible, it is true. I just don't believe that it's factual in every single statement. I don't believe we're meant to read every word literally. That's not the purpose of the Word, and has never been the purpose of the Word, and was never the purpose that the authors who wrote it intended. In fact, all those authors over hundreds of years didn't even write the Bible to be the Bible we use today. They wrote stories. They wrote reflections. They recorded their thoughts and ideas about events that were happening around them. They did it to try to understand what life is all about, what defines us, what it is that makes us the people of God. Some wrote those stories centuries after the events they talk about happened, because they found themselves asking not how did God create the world, but why? Why are we here? Who are we? What does it mean when we offer praise to God the Creator? Some wrote those stories in dark times, challenging times, trying to understand why the people of God were suffering. Why did Jerusalem fall? Why was the temple destroyed? Why were the people of God hauled off into exile in Babylon? If God were indeed supreme, why were these things happening? Why did Jesus come at the time that he did? At a time of great oppression and suffering of the people? And why was his message? Why was he rejected? Some wrote those stories to inspire, to give hope, to offer promise. Stories about the beginnings of the church, about words being proclaimed in the marketplace that result in the redemption of thousands. Some wrote those stories about people in exile who were feeling as if God abandoned them, to remind them that even in the shadow of the valley of death, they are never alone. They are never separate from God's grace. Some wrote those stories to inspire a spirit of confidence and faithfulness. They wrote about a minor tribal people who became powerful because they were faithful. Faithful to a moral code unlike any other that existed at the time. Believing, unlike any other nation, in a personal God. Their purpose in writing was not literal. It was not factual. Their purpose was truth. Their purpose was understanding. In Scotland, there are two roads that follow the shoreline of Loch Tay. One follows the North Shore, and the other the south. The road along the North Shore is the A820 South. It is a nice two-lane highway, wide verges, big shoulders, beautiful scenery of the loch and the highlands surrounding the lake. It is a breathtaking journey as you go down this road for 25 minutes or 2 hours, depending on how much time you want to spend. Because although it's only 26 kilometers long, there's lots of opportunities to pull over and to enjoy the scenery, to listen to the river as it cascades over falls and down into the lake. There's lots of opportunity to bring a picnic with you and set it up on one of the rest stops and enjoy lunch as you listen to the sounds of the birds and see the beauty of the gorse within the hillsides. It's a wonderful road and a peaceful opportunity to travel 26 kilometers, to enjoy all of the creation that surrounds you. On the other side of Loch Tay is a road that has no listing. It is a single lane, a single narrow lane. It goes twisting and turning through blind curves and blind hills for the same 26 kilometers. On one side of the road, there are trees and stone walls. On the other side of the road, there is a steep decline down into the waters of the Tay. Just enough road exists to ensure that if you are driving along it, you do not allow yourself to become distracted, lest you crash into the stone walls or roll down the steep incline into the waters of the Tay. Also on this road are bridges, narrow bridges, even narrower than the laneway that you're already driving down. There are also numerous shallow lay-bys, little things cut out of the hedges or wherever there are two trees that are far enough apart to create a little bit of a shoulder for you to pull your car off on when you meet another car coming the other way. And you spend your time pulling off into these lay-bys, praying you are not going to bump into one of the trees, praying you are not going to scrape the side of your car along one of the stone fences, praying that the other car isn't going to wipe out your side view mirror as it goes past. It is a white-knuckle, often terrifying ride that requires your full attention in order to stay on the road, in order to stay focused. There's no place, no opportunity for you to pull over and look at the beauty of the highlands that surround you. There's no place, no opportunity for you to pull out a picnic and sit down by the side of the road and enjoy lunch. There is no place of calm and relaxing vistas. It is focus, it is fear, and it is prayer through the whole 26 kilometers, from one end of the road to the other, with no other roads intersecting so you can get off of it if you choose to. And it takes you at least 90 minutes to make it from one end of the road to the other, whether you wanted to or not. I think you can likely tell what road it was I was driving down this Friday morning. It's like how we approach reading the Scriptures. We can approach it as a work of beauty, as an insight into truth, as an opportunity to view the inspiring message of God, the inspiring truth of Christ as it speaks to us through the words recorded within the Scriptures. A carefully thought out message that helps us understand what it means to be the people of God. About creating a journey through life that is meaningful and hopeful and rich in grace and peace. It is an intelligent journey that enables us to experience God's message of life, of redemption, speaking to us not just through the words of Scripture, but also through science and through history and through questions, through all of life's experiences that we have. Or we can approach the reading of the Bible as if it is a journey fraught with peril, with anxiety, with fear, with ignorance, that we find we miss the opportunities to know peace, to see God's message of life as it speaks to us at every corner and every turning. A journey that is so focused on following the path ahead of us that we entirely miss the beauty of the world that surrounds us and speaks to us in such vivid tones about the glory of God and the message of creation and what it means to be Christ's people. So, how literally do we read the story of Adam and Eve? We don't. It is a narrow lane filled with blind curves and fearful encounters, and it is not helpful. But when the story was written by the original author to strive to share with us a message of life's precious gift, of how we have been created in God's image to bring about a world that is loving and generous and caring and peace-filled, we experience a beauty, an encounter with creation, with the message that is joyful and enlivening and purposeful. And I guess the only question left is, which road would you prefer to take? Let us join together in 510, Deep in the Shadows of the Past.